Hello YouTube, and welcome to episode 5 in my Owarimonogatari reaction series. Back here again for Monogatari Monday, everybody. One thing I also wanted to say before anything else is that I'm getting very close to 500 subscribers on YouTube, so if you wanted to hit that subscribe button, I would be very grateful, and getting me to this milestone will make me feel good, and I like to feel good, so hit the button, I guess. Something like that anyway. Now, I don't know if you noticed last week, but basically every single video that I was supposed to put out got delayed. So what we're going to try to do to rectify that today is just take a little bit of a step back and watch a little bit less of the show, and not put me on the back foot for a big week of working that I have upcoming, right? Day off today, but not for the rest of the week, no. So if I can just get out of these 2 days alive, Monday and Tuesday, I should be able to, put together some kind of video for my other shows during the week. Got a little bit dicey there for sure. Speaking of dicey, I have the YouTube comments here. First, I'll go into something. So a lot of these are about the Monty Hall problem, which was a prominent feature of the previous 2 episodes and kind of a cornerstone of understanding that arc, I would say. So a lot of these comments have some kind of variation on explaining the Monty Hall problem. I'm pretty sure I've got it down pat now. I'm not going to read every single one out. That does not mean I don't appreciate your input and your answers, because they all combined to improve my understanding, of course, as I've read them throughout the week. Another funny part is that apparently on Discord in the spoilers chat, so I have a Monogatari spoilers channel for those that want to talk about the series as a whole as I'm watching it, there was an explosion of activity around the Monty Hall problem and trying to explain it and decipher it and a bunch of other stuff, and then people were trying to pull the conversation away from that apparently as well. So that was something, and I'm not allowed in there, so I can't even look. Hopefully you guys are behaving yourselves. But yes, it seemingly has sparked a lot of discussion, so I find that interesting as well. One other thing I'll say before diving into the YouTube comments here is that unfortunately I thought a couple of comments got a little bit spoilery. In general, it was probably a common theme that a few people said that I'll address now. According to my understanding of what happened in those 2 videos, before those 2 videos ended, was that Augie was potentially just lying about the whole thing. What a bunch of these comments accidentally confirm is that no, she's not telling lies. She's not completely telling lies. Au contraire, as I thought was the implication. The implication of that last scene with Hanakawa, where she's like, you don't tell anybody who you don't know well about your parents being cops. The implication I was meant to take from that wasn't that Augie's story was wrong, it was that the relationship between Oyakura and Araragi had existed well before even that 5 years ago segment where they were studying. Or at least in some kind of twisted, one-off way. Right? And that's something that I probably wanted to discover on my own through the watching of the show. I'm going to imagine that we're going to dive into another conversation with Oyakura here pretty quickly, and me finding that information out on my own would have been great. So what some may consider not a spoiler for their understanding of the episode at that point may constitute a spoiler for me at my point. It'd probably be a good idea to watch the video to completion to see where my understanding is before commenting. But again, that one I didn't really care about. There was one other comment that had something I would say that is explicitly spoilery, and I think it was Alexander, wherever he is. Yeah, here. This comment. Not to single out Alexander, of course. He does good work, and I think the rest of this is pretty good. There was just one final paragraph, which I think he's now removed, that was a little bit spoilery, as I've said here. And I had one other backing me up in Kramer telling me that it was also a little bit spoilery for the next arc. And it's tough, because people's understanding at this point is informed by stuff that they've seen already. So again, it's hard to know what is a spoiler and what isn't a spoiler. But I don't know, a large part of my appeal of my videos is discovery. And I think hindering that is something that I would like to avoid. I know this went a little bit long. And the funny part about Alexander's comment in particular is that I've completely forgotten what it even was. So I think it was something about Oyakura and motivation or something. But a week's a long time and I have a lot going on, so I just forgot about it, which is probably good. I like that. So I'm not going to have that spoiled for me now, I hope, or I'll remember in the moment or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's dive into the comments proper with Gianbueno here. It is a longer comment, of course, going into a little bit of the novel stuff, inputting that into the equation. So first, I think a couple of people say this as well. Nadeko studies at the same middle school, and then you see Augie looking at that locker that has that snake in it, and then that spins off into Owarimonogatari, of course. So yeah, she's planting the seeds here in this moment about what is going to happen with Nadeko, which is very, very interesting. Kind of a little setup there for the people paying attention. I think they could have framed it better from memory. I don't think they say clearly enough that Augie is looking at it. I think that Araragi just kind of looks at it. Weird. I don't know. I think you could have like Augie like narrow eyes and then point at the locker, and I'd be like, instead of being one that's a little bit more of an Easter egg. This is another great point here. Araragi's bad memory playing a big part in the series. So a lot of the past two arcs have just been I forgot that it's been a lot of Araragi's input, but it's actually been going on way before that as well. So forgetting about Nadeko's existence until seeing her in Nadeko's snake, forgetting and ignoring the fact that Kishot feeds on humans in Kizumonogatari, the date of which Black Hanakawa tried to kill him, and then that led to the apocalyptic stuff that's going on in Kabuki. And yeah, now these memories are coming back full force. The novel also makes it clearer that when Araragi walks into that classroom with Oyakura, Oyakura is sitting at his desk, seemingly wanting the smoke, seemingly wanting the conflict there for sure. Senjo also pretends to pass out, which I think somebody else mentions later as well, after hitting Oyakura to kind of preserve the image of a fair fight instead of an absolute beatdown, which it was, because I wouldn't want to fight Senjo Gahara. First mention of Monty Hall problem as well, we'll go into it a little bit later. So a lot of details in Araragi's conclusion in episode 2 were cut in the anime, and they help us to get a better understanding of our protagonist. So I think that these are pretty major. This one I think they do a poor job of, and this second point I think they do a pretty good job of, right? Because I definitely got this, he didn't remember because he was afraid part. They pretty much explicitly say it. But I don't think they quite hit on the fact that Araragi doesn't even consider the fact that a home like Oyakura's can exist as a fact, right? So, he's a good kid. He's like the Fire Sisters are now in the past, right? And he comes from a really nice family. A good family, a happy home. It would be inconceivable for him that such a family as Oyakura's exists. And again, this is what I'm talking about earlier in this video about casual spoilers, right? So confirming a lot of facts about this home, that it's Oyakura's home and that it's derelict and that Augie may be correct, is in fact a spoiler. At least for me in the moment. I mean, I really don't care that much. Like, it's a little understanding change. But I'm just putting boundaries in place now so we don't get something else major in the future. Again, another thing that could have emphasized a little bit more is Oyakura saying that, hey, we always have to meet in this room, right? Because it's one of the only rooms that isn't completely engulfed in this awful violence, right? So it's one of the better looking rooms, one of the rooms she actually wants to show off. And yeah, as I said before, I think the show does a pretty good job at doing this kind of stuff, explaining why he was afraid, explaining why he didn't look for her or didn't understand that she transported, didn't understand anything else, and didn't want to think about what she had done, right? If she had just run away, if something had happened to her, it's easier to forget, it's easier to turn your head away, it's easier to avert your eyes, as an earlier Monogatari theme for sure. And yeah, Oyakura is obviously motivated by, I guess, the betrayal, in a way, of Araragi, especially considering their earlier relationship, which he has seemingly also forgotten about, implied, I think. But yeah, this is very different from the Araragi we know now. That's pretty good character development, I will say. Saint Yu here with another explanation of the Monty Hall problem. I will say probably the best one for my understanding was probably Kochin's here. And I did watch one of these videos. I think it was like maybe Vsauce or something like that. I don't know. Or one of these channels. And they explain it. And the best way that they explained it is the same way that Kochin explained it, is that what if there was 100 cups and you pick a cup and then they eliminate like 98 and then say, hey, do you want to switch your answer? It becomes way more obvious what you should do. Just on a larger scale. So yes, it's always better to switch. It's always better to act with more knowledge. Again, Saint Yu is basically doing the same thing here with numbers 1 to 10. As for Araragi's response, Okage-sama de, the literal translation is thanks to you, but they use it differently than thank you in English. It was an appropriate general response for the conversation, but Oyakura took it literally. So a little bit of Japanese language stuff there, kind of explaining why she got as mad as she did in that conversation. I see. Benjamin Lee, next comment here. Again, talking about Monty Hall problem, which we have gone through, but thank you. An interesting thing about Sodachi's name is this kanji. It can mean nurture, classic Monogatari name wordplay. So it may potentially a little bit ironic there, considering she probably wasn't as nurtured as some other kids, let's just say. This is another interesting one too, is that there's a variant of the Monty Hall question problem thing where he actually opens that second door, if that makes any sense, right? But the host doesn't have the knowledge, right? So if he opens one of the random doors and it's a losing door, should you still change your answer? I don't know. We're not diving into this again, damn it. Jaramero, next comment here. Oyakura's VA originally auditioned for Senjugahara and Kiss Shot. I knew about the Senjugahara. I didn't know about the Kiss Shot part of it. Can't really see her as Kiss Shot. I can't really see anybody but Shinobu as Shinobu, which is kind of crazy. Also, Chibi Spooky Augie has finally arrived. She's been all of these things from the start, so I don't know what you mean, but sure. Next comment here by Creator. Kind of one of two comments shouting out John Bueno's work, who writes a whole essay every week. Can't come up with one sentence for the algorithm. Don't feel inferior at all. There's no obligation to comment. There's no obligation to add something, I guess, huge to the conversation in that way, I would say. Literally, like a thanks for making the video. That just makes my day. I love stuff like that. And yeah, it's true that he prepares portions of his comments beforehand, which is why they're so long and so good and so well written. So shoutouts to that, as he explains here, of course, in this reply. Trials to the Plus with another really good comment for understanding the Monty Hall problem, right? Probably goes into the most detail, I would say, as well, with some of the actual math here and deducing it with probability, which I haven't done for like shit. 8 years. 8 years at this point. That's a long time. So thanks for that comment there. IceCP. ICP? ICP? I think you're trying to get me there. This arc probably has my favorite ED in the whole series. The foreshadowing and atmosphere they managed to cram into 90 seconds is really impressive. I especially like the shot of Araragi and Sodachi as kids. Feels very nostalgic. I will say it is one of my favorite EDs thus far as well. There's something fantastical about it. There's something like about that journey, about that the changing of the characters that'll probably be filled with meaning at some point as well. That is just very, very soothing and cool, and the song's really good, and yes, I like it. I like Monogatari openings and EDs. They're really good. We've talked about the latter paragraph of Alexander's comment already, but let's give it the actual content a read through as well. Just think about that first scene with Oyakura actually in like a classroom full of classmates. I would pay money to see what the reaction in the classroom would be to what Senjugahara did. Apparently in the manga, there's some background characters potentially in that side of it, right? The manga that's obviously made way after the fact. And yeah, I would agree with this. One of the most engaging scenes in the show. One of the most confronting, not confronting, conflicting? What's the word? They're fighting and it's interesting. Yeah, well, I was on the edge of my seat. You couldn't have taken me away from the screen at that point, for sure. Apart from the opening, there's been a number of references to James Bond in the past. Neko Monogatari Kuro's first episode, Araragi mentions 007 spiral pattern when talking with Tsukihi, and his hair makes that shape. Maybe when we see young Araragi mimicking the scene in the previous episode, I believe it was episode 4, he's pretending to be a hero, the same way the Fire Sisters pretend they're Justice. Maybe a little bit of a reach, but I probably actually see it. It's something, weirdly enough, that reminds me of Kaguya-sama. Kaguya-sama make these kind of nebulous connections to pop culture all the time where you need to kind of squint to see it, and I kind of see that same energy coming through here, which is interesting considering I believe there's a bit of staff crossover. These two episodes feature one of the most interesting locations in the show being Oyakura's house, considering how minimalist the rest of Monogatari is, mostly pretty empty places and, cold architecturally, I would say, right? This is the one space I can think of that they really go out of the way to show all the nooks and crannies of it. Kind of like one of those urban exploration videos, which I like to watch on TikTok. They're funny. Considering the reason why Oyakura's house is abandoned is domestic violence, it's the sort of urban explorations that end up pretty depressing by the end. And yeah, we've come to terms with my understanding of this now as well. Dama Amancia. It's been so long since we've seen Senjo with her pen shenanigans. Like she said, it's currently discontinued, but it's still a Senjo Gahara character trait. One of the best fourth wall breaks in the last couple of episodes as well. Really liked it. Just, yeah, that whole conversation's fantastic. Great scene. Fantastic. Urmi Anime. Next comment here. So on the topic of compensation, Sodachi gets angry and slaps Senjo when she says she wasn't searching for compensation from Araragi and she doesn't care if he thanks her. So thinking about this now, it can be implied that this was a shot from Senjo Gahara about, hey, you were only messing with Araragi looking for compensation, that being that his parents are cops and that he may tell them and then, sort out that whole situation, yeah? I think this goes deeper for Senjo's and Araragi's relationship, since both Hanakawa and Nadeko were using their love of Araragi as an excuse or an escape, while Senjo was just chilling and wasn't expecting him to do anything. Think about basically the first scene in the show where he catches her off the staircase. And yeah, we make peace with this stuff for both of these characters at this point, I believe, right? They're both in very different headspaces at the end of the current timeline, that is. I think Kramer goes into this as well later on, but another note, the opening lyrics are intentional in the Blu-ray because A corresponds to 1 and Z corresponds to 26, and then that's how you read the lyrics that way, which is kind of insane. And that art style in episode 3 is a reference to Cat Soup, a short OVA that's really good. So that was, with the big eyes from memory. This was the second comment to mention Jian's comment, which is good for him. A little bit of notoriety in the scene. I learned something new I didn't think about the first time I watched it. And I think that's the biggest compliment for both Jian and for me making these videos, right, and featuring this segment, is that people that are pretty familiar with what's going on can watch one of these videos and have their understanding enhanced by either me, from something I see, which is rare, or one of the commenters who know way more than me and are way more insightful and that kind of thing, which is common. So yeah, I like this segment for that reason. T. Mundif also has a reply here, just shouting out the general Monogatari series as one of their favorites, which I can't help but agree for sure. Last comment here by Kramer, talking about the letters numbers thing again, kind of a cipher, pretty simple cipher, using the numbers 1 to 26 corresponding to letters, thus using this example, which would translate to Zuto Wakateta? Sure, we'll say that. I guess in a art called Sodachi Riddle, it starts to make a little bit more sense as well. Talking about Nadeko in middle school and the locker and the orgy and the setup and the awesome. And yeah, Senju Gahara also playing dead in that fight, trying to get a better outcome because, if she's the one standing over the person already still punching in or still backing away, then the punishment will be more severe. I see. A little bit of a recap on the timeline. I don't think there's much to say here other than, hey, this kind of stuff where this convoluted story from Orgi is actually pretty true, that Oyakura is coming from an abusive household and needing Araragi to tell his parents. So Hanakawa poking some holes in Orgi's theory wasn't disproving Orgi's theory, it was just saying that she isn't presenting all the information and is purposely leaving some stuff out potentially. And yeah, we're jumping into Schrodinger's Oyakura. We don't know if she's in that classroom or not, but we're going to walk in and have a look regardless. I believe this is the start of a new arc as well. So yeah, we'll have a new opening. You'd think we'll keep the ED, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens from there. I'd like to get more Hanakawa involvement. I like Hanakawa. Or Senjo. I like Senjo too. Just, more characters than just Orgi and Araragi, which we have gotten a lot of recently, right? Orgi is very fun, but she gets a little bit long in the tooth as well for mine. I think I should stop the dilly-dallying and jump into the episode proper, but not without my shill stuff. If you like the video, consider liking the video. If you like the video and you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Comment below anything you thought about the episode, anything I can do to improve my presentation, comment below. I'm doing follow for follow on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter if you'd like me to follow you back, and the Discord. Join Discord, love Discord, vote on polls and stuff in the Discord, and yeah, Discord. Jumping into episode 5 of Owarimonogatari right now. Episode 5 up here, ready to go. Let me pop that up there. 25 minutes and 42 seconds on this one, so sync up accordingly. As always, picture-in-picture in the description below, and using the Call Girls subs today. So yeah, just going to give it a 3, 2, 1. Radio? 3, 2, 1, go. So Dachi lost? Oh. Okay. What is that single sentence? Yeah, I've seen that line around. Kind of scribbling out all the other lines of the novel. Okay, sure. Okay. Okay, very Japanese, but sure. Oshino Ogi da. 20 characters or fewer. Huh. Sure. I feel like I've heard this song. Yeah, I've heard this song. The song's good. Oh, the melody. Hello, Oikura, in a frosty forest. Two Oikuras. One dead Oikura. Oh, she's cool. Pulling her hair out and there's blood? Okay. Da 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 da. Yeah. Interesting opening visually for sure. Two sides. Symmetry, as we saw in the last one as well, right? But not symmetry. They're two different sides now. Giving her a scarf, keeping her warm. Okay. Sure. The part where she ripped her hair out and blood, I don't know about that. Okay, what time of day is it? What is happening? You know everything? Yeah, say the line, but. Hell yeah. Huh. She might be. Ooh, brilliant frame. Look at that. Really pulls off the feeling of feeling isolated from Augie. All alone. Why? No. Another great frame. This is great. Man, Hanako is the best. No, I think she's correctly estimating her. I don't know about the cute part. What's wrong with Oshino? He seems like a cool guy. See it as a debt. It's interesting too. I guess you literally had a debt at one point. No, I mean, that's also the case. Okay, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah. Just casually pushing you in the right directions all the time, right? Hmm. Nope. Interesting. Very, very interesting. No, I don't think that's it. It's why she has her eyes on Oyakura. What's the connection? Yeah, very obviously so. Bro, Hanakawa's so smart. She's just like me. Ooh. What is their destination? What are we doing? That's what I was about to say. Look at that. They beat me to the punch. So she wasn't in there. And that's the answer to our little Schrodinger's. Schrodinger's. Probably a smart idea. Interesting shot. And we're going to go to Oikura first. Oh. Um. Well, I know which one. I know which one Araragi's going to pick, right? I know which one I would want to go see. Yeah. No. Interesting. That's a very Araragi answer too, though. Yeah. Hello. I don't have a home. The fuck are you talking about? That's very specific. I don't think it's the truth. No, you're manipulating me. Shut up. Oh, traffic light. Think about it. Hmm. What is your deal? Oshino Orgi. Oh, very high def Orgi. Hmm. No. Her new house. Huh? Yeah. Great example again, right? She just like zipped your mouth shut. I didn't even know she had hands. Oh, that's literally what she did. Okay. No, but you've tapped my mouth shut. I can't. I'm just gonna go see. Yeah, you explained again. Hmm. No, it's kind of sad, actually. More than anything else. Okay. My wild theory. What's wrong with that? That was a good little bit of animation on her, too. What's wrong? So you need to bring somebody with you. Oh. Who's gonna care? Well, you're gonna have to wait. No. 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 It's not good. No, she's making up shit. She's manipulating you. She's so smart though. No. So smart. Yo, this episode's really well written. Like crazy. No, stop manipulating me. Stop. Oh, the background going like crazy as well. The color scheme. The hero. My hero. She's here. Yes! Let's fucking go! She's so smart. Oh, no, shut up. Push her into traffic, please. Oh, green light. No, but that's been at least 2 arcs. It should be, sometimes. Yeah. It's been a busy couple of days, for sure. Oh, and then Hanakawa has like a traffic ID associated with her as well. Thanks, Hanakawa. I know this to be the case. Oh, it's getting a little bit steamy. Tensai. The more you say it, the more I don't believe you. But sure. Afraid. Oh. It's the most savage fight. Hmm. Push her into traffic, please. No way. Future too. Okay. The background, the traffic jam. Hmm. Beloved friend is funny too. No, I wish you not to be here. Don't say it like that. What's an uninvited sidekick? I don't believe you. Based. The Grateful Crane. No, this isn't an act of benevolence from you. You need to get something out of this. What's the plan? Okay. Green light. Let's go traffic. The music's good too. Pajama party. Of course, Araragi's excited, right? He missed one of those in August. Pick. At like a car park or something. Okay. He seems very excited. No, it's not like a respectful thing. Stop. Please. You didn't have anything to do with it either. Ooh, so smart. Yeah. Ah, Augie's so smart though. Like they're kneeling before her too. Nope. Yes. Ooh. Let's go. And then that was the yep, perfect. 444. Yeah, you know, it's probably not much. Yeah, knowing the government. I don't know. What's the answer then? No, you're just weak in the past. Mm-hmm. Well, he has also simultaneously forgotten everybody that wasn't very important in the plot. You know what I mean? Like all the background characters. What's wrong with that? I don't know, she's being casual. That's fine. It's her house. I'm in pajama pants right now. It's me, Hanakawa. Yeah, whatever you say. It was enough to break you out of like her spell, though. Ooh, okay, that's good too. No, I mean maybe, but also no. Get us some budget sushi. Um, you look. Hello. Okay. Ooh. Hmm. Sounds like her. Yep. Well, it depends what the pajamas are like. Kind of. She didn't. I didn't as well. Okay. End of episode? Yeah. That episode was fan fucking tastic. I don't know if anybody thinks this, but that is one of my favorite episodes for sure. How smartly written is it? That confrontation between Augie and Hanako is a marvel. It's so good. The amount that's going on in the background, or the background of the scene, but also the background of that conflict is insane. Um, It has a fantastic conclusion with the line from Hanakawa about the boobs. Real edge of your seat stuff. The episode, told in its kind of non-chronological way, does a lot to enhance this. We eventually know who wins the conflict, but it's how that's the interesting part, and how hard Augie pushes to have a third chance to be alone with Araragi whilst he discovers something, right? And Hanako is so smart. She clearly knows part of Augie's motivation, where it is centered around Araragi, right? And she's protecting him. Think about it. There she is. Hey, now the ED makes a lot of sense too. And now Araragi is allowed to be alone with Oyakura as well. The show's so good. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And yeah, a little bit of analysis on episode 5 of Owarimonogatari. So yeah, that was fantastic, as I've already said. One of my favorite episodes, I think. It's very, 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 very well written. I've just went and written a little recap again, and a few decisions in this episode are downright masterful. They're strokes of genius. It's one of the smartest written episodes in the show. IMO. I think it's so damn good. It's so cohesive too, and features one of my favorite characters in Hanakawa popping off, understanding her role in all of this and executing to perfection. It's just really, really good. Episode 5 starts with Araragi walking with Hanakawa on their way to see Oyakura. Hanakawa seems very hesitant of Augie trailing behind, or potentially already being where they're going, right? She already knows this next step in the plan. She's very hesitant of that. It becomes very, very clear, both visually and in the dialogue, that Hanakawa is very wary of Augie. And this episode is told non-chronologically, so we already know the result to the conflict later on from the start of the episode, but still doesn't detract any of the tension from that conflict early in the episode as well, because yeah, it's just really well done. Really, really well done. So then we flash back to earlier in the school day where Oyakura hasn't returned to school, so that kind of Schrodinger's cat kind of setup that we had for what's going on. She wasn't in the room. There was no cat inside the box, and no Senjugahara either. Araragi is then posed with the question of who to tackle first out of Senjugahara and Oyakura. The answer that he ends up going with is Oyakura, which is another great writing detail in the episode for sure. It is so like Araragi to do something like that, to go and address his mortal enemies before his girlfriend. Augie then ambushes Araragi, and I don't know any other word you could use for it. The use of the road and the traffic lights in this scene is something to behold. Kind of the colors in the background in the sky are still really fantastic too. So we're addressing this again. We're addressing this in the plot, and it explains a lot of things, right? Araragi tells Augie way too much all the time, and he can subconsciously think in his brain, I'm telling her way too much. Why am I telling her this? But he can't stop it. That's very, very interesting. So he's a big blabbermouth around her. Think about that in context with the previous arc, where Augie's just there. Augie's just there tailing along, right? And we now understand why. She probably did something very similar to what she did now, but didn't have a Hanakawa to stop in and change things, right? Genuinely a master manipulator is Augie. The other thing is that previous framing devices for other arcs has been Araragi blabbering too much, telling Augie too much stuff, right? Think about for Kabuki Monogatari, we're retelling Augie that story by the end. Think for Owarimonogatari, same deal. We're retelling Augie because Araragi can't keep his goddamn mouth shut. That's fantastic backfilling of justifying why certain things are happening. I think that's fantastic. And again, I'll talk about more of these details later, how it escalates the final conclusion, which is just goddamn hilarious. And actually poignant on another level as well, about Araragi's interpretation of it. And then Araragi and Hanakawa, back in present day, whatever that means, make their way up to Oyakura's room, and after some discussion with Hanakawa, also another fantastically written little scene there, she agrees to meet with Araragi, and that is our lead-in for episode 6. So yeah, if you can't tell, I'm pretty goddamn jazzed about this episode. I think it's really good. We have another opening to look at as well, so let's take a little bit of a relook, a little bit of a different lens to the episode now. So again, this episode's great. It does everything you could possibly want out of a Monogatari episode, being brilliantly, poignantly written, engaging minute to minute, and fantastic visually to boot. So yeah, just non-stop praise today. Monogatari is good, ladies and gentlemen. But let's start here on this first frame. Sodachi Lost is the name of our arc. I don't have anything to tell you unless she likes like a TV show from like the mid-2000s. Lost. Needs to be found. Doesn't have a home. Something. I don't know. It's a hard one to grasp onto. It's probably too broad for me to paint with much right now. Let us once again return to the question of Oshino Orgi. That said, she is who she is after all. Even if I went back and started this all again, I think I would do the same actions. If she were described in the form of a novel, it would be completed in a single sentence, and a sentence that I've seen elsewhere. Oshino Orgi was just Oshino Orgi. I didn't really talk about it in the moment, but there's also the part where she's I guess, highlighting out certain words in a novel, only leaving Oshino Orgi. This just fits on a number of levels, up to and including Monogatari's meta layer stuff about it being aware that it's a book, aware that it's a story, aware of all sorts of things, to the point where Oshino Orgi is in charge and purposely removing things and only leaving herself. There's definitely something in that I could have talked to a little bit more. We've primarily learned about mathematics up to this point. Let's turn a little bit to language, which is Japanese for the intended Japanese audience. Answer the following question within the character limit, which is kind of a math question too, now that I think about it. If you were tasked with describing Oshino Orgi in 4 characters or fewer, the answer would simply be Oshino Orgi da, which is just Oshino Orgi. So the last question I'll give you in a similar vein is just how big of a fool is Araragi Koyomi, which is something we bring back in the discussion later on as well. Answer in 20 characters or fewer. Your answer must contain Oshino Orgi once. There she is, Oshino Orgi. And that's kind of the question leading into this arc in a similar vein to the last couple, actually. And I do not know where I've heard this opening before. It's a decent shout to say it's Osu again, though. It's great. The song's great anyway. The melody's really strong. It's very catchy. It's always a very classical melody. I feel like I've heard that melody a million times. And features kind of 2 oikuras doing some stuff too. So we'll dive into it visually as well as with the lyrics. What lies ahead when everything is lost? I should have let it all go ages ago. Kind of a single light in the middle expanding out to be a lamp, a single oikura lost in the forest with 1 light she's holding onto. Just the build into the chorus is just fantastic here. In musically. I should have let it go ages ago, but I kept pushing my expectations onto you. My expectations onto you. From an Oyakura perspective, potentially? I kept diving into the sea of possibilities in search of the slimmest chances. We see a second Oyakura meet up with the first Oyakura who was lost. Her lantern has gone out, but she's replacing hers with a lantern that has some light in it. Touches her once and she falls to her knees, kind of shivering almost in the snow. Kind of in that summer dress in the snow as well, which isn't very appropriate, but I digress. As she shivers, she grows to grab her hair, pulls some hair out of her skull, out of her scalp, resulting in a little bit of blood falling as well, which is pretty intense. But it seems you'll never realize what exactly it is I'm made of. What did you mean by this? I don't know. Maybe it's worth another look at this opening later on in the arc once it's closer to done. So we have Oyakura, the ripped hair out of our scalp that was cold, that was alone, being grabbed by this other Oyakura that has a little bit more color, using her as a little bit of something to lean on, And then kiss, because, Monogatari. But also we fuse. We turn into one Oyakura, right? Part of me potentially lost that is found and then returned together, and it's almost like this bittersweet feeling. And then that fire from the lantern extrapolates out, becomes a bigger fire, kind of contrasting the heat and the cold of the scene. I leave myself in your hands, smiling innocently. We see there's a little bit of a practical effect here with the burning as well. That's not animated, that's like real. Kind of bringing, some realistic element to what we see in the animation, which is cool. Something we've harkened back to from basically like the first season. We kind of did a lot of that kind of stuff, some real life practical effects being used with the animation to create meaning. Kind of You know, again, harkening back to that. I leave myself in your hands, smiling innocently, for this unknown future is just beginning. These two are still back in the snow. Maybe a lot of that warmth was again metaphorical. We'll definitely solve the equation which defines us. No matter how many mistakes we make, we see that they've now put on a scarf together. Again, heat, cold, that coming through. Despite that burning stuff deep inside that may exist there, we still need something practical on the outside to keep us warm as well. Something connected. String of fate idea going on too, maybe. That scarf better not be called like Kuchinawa or something. That'd be bad. And then yeah, they all exist within the fire of the lantern as well, with the snow going on outside. Very visually entertaining ED with a great song to boot. Yeah, just great. Probably full of meaning too when I get a little bit more into Oyakura's stuff. And then we kind of just start, and it makes a lot of sense now that I know the rest of the episode why we start the way we do. But for right then and there, it was very hard to understand. I'm like, why aren't we in a classroom? Why aren't we talking with Oyakura? So funnily enough, Araragi has figured out why Oyakura knew that his parents were cops, even though Hanakawa says that that's something that, you know, he doesn't tell anybody unless he's super close with them. He asked Sengoku to make sure, which is another weird one. I guess that she was around during that childhood time as well and would have been able to, you know, yeah, she was your friend, Araragi. Shouldn't you be the one remembering that? But anyway. So yeah, Araragi feels a little bit of shame about this, that he couldn't remember why Oyakura knew this. And yeah, kind of thanking Hanakawa for reminding him and helping him to understand. Incorporating in her trademark line, of course, as well. And then, yeah, this is the biggest direct comparison between what Hanakawa's line is and what Augi's line is, right? Hanakawa saying, I don't know everything, I just know what I know. It's again, we've been through it. Subconsciously aware of one's own limits. That's why I don't know the things Augie-chan knows, because she knows things that I don't know, right? She knows things that she shouldn't know as well, which is also interesting. Harkening back to this line that I don't know anything, Araragi, you know everything. So everything that I know is made up of things that are you, Araragi, and that you tell me. Interesting. We're fine, right? She's not tailing us. And I talked about this in the moment as well. What a perfect visual representation of the coast is clear, of that she isn't tailing us, right? That there's nothing she can hide behind. It's nothing but a blue sky surrounding us. There's a bunch of, walkways that are visual to us right now. It is very hard for me looking at this frame to see where anybody could be hiding. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that's really underrated for Monogatari. And of course, Hanakawa brings up tailing the suspect as being a detective's job. Again, Augi's got a thing with detectives. Think about her little hat and magnifying glass in that opening. Hanakawa muses that she would have actually liked to be tailed, right? We could have shaken her off if we'd tried. The fact that we can't see her and that we don't know her next step of a plan and that it's somewhat not clear to us right now is somewhat more scary. Hanakawa clearly, in this point in the episode, knows how dangerous Augie can be. Araragi calls out Hanakawa here for potentially being a little bit too cautious, but Hanakawa again sees through it. She may even already be where we're going. Again, Araragi thinks that she's overestimating her, right? I mean, she's Oshino Meme's niece and seems to be pretty smart. But don't you think she's still a child with a load of limitations, even mentioning that she's kind of cute? So, okay, you can take two stances here, and I wanted to talk about this in the moment as well, right? I mean, we see this later on in the episode too. I think there's a line about this. What approach is better? Hanakawa's caution or Araragi's almost blind, manipulated optimism? I'm unsure, right? Does Oshino Augie deserve saving? Is she somebody we should try to save? Araragi's always known to be the one that saves the girl right in front of him, right? What does that entail here? Is he being cluelessly naive? Or is he potentially got the best and most heroic philosophy here possible? I don't know. I, in the moment, am siding with Hanakawa because she seemingly is one of the only characters in the show thus far that has given Augie the, I guess, level of caution I think she deserves. And that makes Hanakawa very endearing to me as well as a result. And then some good old-fashioned Monogatari, I don't know what you would even call it, underage stuff with kind of framing Kambaru's first meeting in a similar way to Augie, Monogatari stuff. I need you to help me to put the class back in order right now, kind of our duty as class president and class vice president. Cool. And then we got this scene, right? Again, such a fantastic idea. Araragi cluelessly on like an escalator, what you call it? They exist in airports. I think they're framing this in an airport right now too, which is interesting. Or maybe these are just in cities and I'm too broke to understand. But it's a thing automatically. Like you're on a track, right? You're being pulled along by something. Think about it. Where Araragi doesn't understand again the level of threat that exists right now. Hanakawa isn't on the same trail, isn't being pulled along like this, is walking of her own volition, keeping up with Araragi, making sure that he isn't pulled away. Asking this question, right? So you tagged along with Augi's investigation, and then before that, you didn't remember anything about yourself or Oyakura-san in middle school. No, it's the other way around. Augie-chan tagged along with my investigation. Augie just went with me and helped me remember some stuff. That's fine, right? No, excuse me, it's until you went on this little trip with Augie, right? You didn't remember anything, right? So Hanakawa is trying to frame this as Augie's dangerous because she's trying to get to you and your memories and your understanding of things, right? The way I see it, no other girl is that dangerous. And then Araragi, stupidly enough, just thinks he's talking about Oyakura. Like, what? Araragi clearly just doesn't see the level of threat here that we, the audience, and Hanakawa do. See, we're just not on the same wavelength. I've walked way ahead of you. You're on this track. You're going to get to my level and understand what's going on with Augie. And we see this in the framing here as well, right? Well, whatever, I suppose you're not able to talk about it right now. She continues to walk on ahead. Araragi doesn't catch up, but maybe eventually will. Interesting. Then we see this background. This is introducing where Oyakura is going to be living. And we've seen this kind of background in Kubikiri Cycle before as well. Kind of a very realistic image put under a number of filters, in my opinion. Helps a place to feel from another time even, right? Again, like, Araragi just doesn't get it. Are you thinking Augie may bear Oyakura some kind of ill will? No, you dummy, it's you. Of course it's you. Yeah, it's not that Augie has her eyes on Oyakura, you dummy. It's you. It's you, it's how Oyakura affects you. That's what she's looking to zero in on and exploit and make you, again, feel bad, unless there's some other further meaning to what she's doing, which I'm sure there is. But for right now, all we know is that Augie likes to make Araragi feel bad. Like, Araragi's being inhumanly dumb here, I think, right? Just like not understanding what Hanako is saying at all. Frankly, I'm not sure if I can protect you. You told me what happened during summer break was hell itself, but this might only be the beginning of your agony based on Augie and what she may do to you. If that's not ominous, then what is, right? And the two of these characters make their way to Oyakura's apartment, number 44, or number 444, I think. So yeah, Oyakura didn't come into school the next day, not surprising, as represented by this desk that got knocked down, like Oyakura did. Compare this with Senjokuhara's desk, which is a little bit more level and a little bit more like it's been placed upside down instead of being knocked upside down, if you catch my drift. So we're going to try to check up on Senjokuhara and Oyakura-san after school. Which one do you want to go see, Araragi? And again, I'm like, very, very obviously my girlfriend. That would be the one that I think Araragi would want to see, especially considering the argument that happened yesterday with Oyakura. I would want to stay away as far away from that as possible. And suggesting that they split up, right? So whichever one you choose, I'll choose the opposite. So because Araragi says he wants to go see Oyakura, Hanako is then going to go see Senjokuhara, which is vital to understanding the next scene with Augie. And yeah, because Araragi is Araragi, right, and wants to rectify things and make things right with Oyakura, and that's one of his biggest motivations at this time in the story, he chooses to go and see his worst enemy rather than his girlfriend. Very Araragi answer to that question. Then perhaps you're wondering why, after deciding to split up, Hanako and I went there together. Well, there's about to be like a 10-minute long scene explaining that, so buckle in. Araragi has been ambushed by one Augie-chan. On your way home, No. I don't think I have a home. That's another thing that's constantly coming up with Augie in these stories, as well as this idea of home. Happened last arc as well. So again, on the other side of the street, potentially waiting for a green light to cross the road. Think about it. Proper, ordinance, perfect. All these themes that have personified Augie up to this moment. Gaslighting the fuck out of him. We promised to meet here, right? For my expensive sushi date that you promised me? Again, we've seen no confirmation that this ever happened. I just think that she's gaslighting the fuck out of him, praising him for his punctuality, while simultaneously calling him a fool as well. And yep, there's our traffic light. That's the cue. That's the cue into the conversation that Augie gets to talk with Araragi. Yeah, Augie knows that she's in. They're now talking about the expensive sushi. She has initiated a conversation. She is ready to work her magic. And here goes Araragi, after that look from Augie, saying too much. I regret to say that I don't think that we can go get sushi today. We can't keep the promise. The truth is, I have to go to Oyakura's house now, Augie-chan, right? To that decrepit ruin? No, where she actually lives now. Huh? I've become way too talkative in front of Augie. Again. And then here comes Augie. She's wearing gloves too, which is mad. I didn't even know that she had hands. I thought she only had sleeves. Kind of unzips his mouth, or potentially zips it up. But you'd think unzips based on what happens with the rest of the conversation. And hey, she's got her in. She seems delighted. I opened the zipper, even more like adhesive tape. Now tell me more. Tell me more about what happened. Again, always calling him a fool, right? So you seem to be well down Oyakura-san's route, right? Again, alluding to maybe a little bit of a dating sim idea there as well. So what gives, basically? Augie wants more details. I'm not trying to woo her. She didn't really consent to this visit, you see. She stopped coming to school again yesterday. Even the day before yesterday, she might as well have not been there. Huh? I was forced to explain. She was forced to explain yet again. You're being manipulated, Araragi. It's clear to see. For me, the audience, but obviously not for you in the moment. Explaining this whole situation, all the confirmations that he's gotten from Sengoku, which I think is the implication that he's gone and called Sengoku and seen about this relationship that he used to have with Oyakura. And this is okay, this is another in, right? Araragi keeps talking, so I'm going to go see her. She's living on her own. Then I assume that some other relative is there, being her guardian, that would be there to accompany you, right? Because there could be some nefarious rumors that may start if you visit a girl's house when she's home alone. A little bit of confirmation for Augie's story from the previous episode as well. I think you were right about what happened to Oyakura 5 years ago. Her parents probably divorced, leaving her as somebody that needs to rely on some kind of welfare system, I don't know how it works in Japan, to get by. So then she's come back here 2 years later to that high school, obviously seeing Araragi as a mortal enemy, and then what happens with the class trial, and then everything that happens from that point outwards as well. Again, calling Araragi a fool, my wonderful fool, Araragi-senpai, kind of, again, bringing up this idea of needing somebody to accompany you to a girl's house. Again, this is a great use of rule of threes, right? So we should be able to have general pattern recognition and see what's going on here between the first arc, which was Augie Formula, Sodachi Riddle being the next arc, and now with Sodachi Lost, we should see a pattern emerging where Augie inserts herself into the story and tags along with Araragi and helps him with his understanding of something and making him feel as bad as possible as a result. We should see that what's happening right now is really bad, and we're actually seeing the manipulation that leads to her accompanying Araragi in real time. And again, everything she's saying is justifiable, right? You shouldn't go and do this, it'll start rumors about you and her. You wouldn't want to make trouble for her now, would you, right? You could see Araragi just like thinking about it. That may actually be a good idea. No, it's not. Don't listen. I was really looking forward to that sushi as well. Araragi tries to run. Oh, I just had a very good idea. I should accompany you, Araragi. Araragi also reflexively saying, oh, that's good, but why is that good? Why did he say that? It was like he was on autopilot. That's good that you would want to accompany me. Why is that good? Why do I want her there? Right? Visiting her alone is the crux. If me, another girl, were to accompany you, then you wouldn't start such rumors of cheating. Another thing we see, it's the first time we see it, and I'll circle it on the screen here. Car. Hey, look, it's Car. Well, it's one of the first times we've seen it. It's the first time I noticed it anyway, right? Car. Just waiting for a potentially a green light to start moving. So this takes us way, 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 way back, right? Where we had a thing with Hanakawa about cars, right? About movement, about intersections. This is way back to Bakemonogatari even. That's the first kind of place it started to show up. We also simultaneously see the same idea in Kizumonogatari, where I believe Araragi sees Panty or some equivalent, and then car crashes. Um, Again, linking Hanakawa and Araragi through traffic, right? This is a visual representation of Hanakawa waiting for her cue to jump in. I think that's a very, very well done visual element of the scene, and we'll see this idea extrapolated upon further as we go. Araragi postulates that Oyakura wouldn't be the type to just be, I guess, satiated by some girl giving her some amount of attention, some amount of consoling, right? Then she shoots Araragi a look, and then he thinks this: would a younger girl maybe be good for this, right? Is this actually good? Teleports right in front of you. You do know that I'm a great listener, right? The color changed; it's a little more like grimy and dirty as well. If I was there, you may be able to extract all sorts of stories from Oyakura. I understand. Okay, this is great from Augie as well. I understand that you know that you're way too talkative around me, if that makes any sense, right? So Augie knows that Araragi knows that he's too talkative around Augie. Therefore, if Augie can present the same, I guess, conversational skills with Oikura, then maybe we'll get her to talk. It's a great reason for justifying why Araragi would then consider this a good idea to bring Augie along. She knows exactly what Araragi knows and is using every method possible to manipulate him. And I think it's so well written. So Araragi, you may recall all these different things, but you still can't talk to her normally. That's where I'll come into the equation, right? I can be the relay between you two so that things don't get out of hand. We see the shadows here. Augie has become his shadow. There's some other character that's his shadow as well, but that isn't really around at the moment, which is weird. Again, whispering in the ear, all these manipulation tactics. Let me do some work. Let me lend you a hand. The eyes gone crazy. We've seen these eyes before in the series too, I think. Yep, completely absent-mindedly, almost like a puppet or a marionette or something like that, right? Please help me, Augie-chan. Just, again, agreeing with her. Augie here thinks she's accomplished her goal. Then here she is. There's Hanakawa, saving the day. I'm guessing just by chance has seen this happen. Don't ask her for help. Don't. Do you really want to bother an underclassman with our private affairs? Again, she knows Araragi. A different way to how Augie knows Araragi, right? Augie knows out of some weird knowledge, right? Where she's extrapolated this from somewhere. Hanakawa knows about it from years of experience. She knows how to get to Araragi and how to get him to respond to things, right? Selflessness, right? Do you really want to bother somebody else with our private affairs? And then again, Araragi's thoughts. Indeed, it's not a good idea to rope outsiders into our private affairs. It's very, very rude. Augie recognizes danger. Hold on. There's no need to be shy. Again, she recognizes the kind of competition aspect of this now, and now really steps in, really ups the ante. This look as well from Hanako is fantastic. Great. Like, as Araragi is looking at Augie like this, she's like, I know what you're up to. Such a look of, like I despise you, right? It would hurt my feelings if you didn't clue me into this, right? So don't hold back. Now Araragi, again, rocking a hard place. In between the two, eventually needing to choose. I'm shocked that you would be so cold to me as to not tell me this. Please don't ruin our relationship. And getting this close. How manipulative, right? Eye to eye. Look into those fucking black holes of her eyes. And there we see it, right? So, like, Hanakawa speaks out, light goes from red to green, car starts moving. She's starting to make headway. Kind of questioning the kind of, I guess, importance of Araragi and Augie's relationship, considering the short amount of time it's existed, but the depth of one's relationship is not a function of time, says Augie. I feel like me and Araragi really hit it off in no time, and then talking about all these different things that we've done over the few episodes that we've seen Augie. Again, yeah, we've made so many unusual memories together. Again, going to Araragi for approval. Right, Araragi? We've done this, Araragi. Classic manipulator behavior. Again, Hanakawa upping the ante, right? If I had been with him, I'd have done a better job. I would have done a better job with these couple of scenarios. The scenario in the classroom and the scenario in the abandoned house, right? Over the last 2 arcs. Like, I've been informed about this. Araragi-kun, my dear friend, seems to be in your debt, but I could have done a better job. It's really heating up as we see Araragi's legs there, kind of got those like heat mirage lines, you know. Yes, Hanakawa, you would have done a better job. You are a genius after all. My uncle has told me. What, you mean Oshino? Yes, I'm Oshino's niece. And the more times we say it, the more times I'm thinking, hey, maybe there's something going on here that isn't quite okay. I don't know. So Hanakawa, what's the benefit of genius unused? The one who actually was there to help him was I. Again, trying to weasel our way in. Again, walking into Araragi's line of sight as well, not taking a backward step. As we see this light here also go red, right? Interesting. My uncle was afraid of your genius, but from what I've seen, it isn't all it cracked up to be. You see, from the stories, I would have assumed you would come to Araragi-senpai's aid in a time of peril, with, of course, that light still red, too, right? I can only conclude that your genius has declined since its heyday, right? You weren't here to help him with those 2 scenarios we just went through, so I'm better. Like, it's so childish at this point, right? Again, character framing's fantastic, as we see here right now as well. Araragi gets a little bit incensed when Orgi goes too far against Hanakawa. And again, Orgi wheels out that classic line, I don't know anything, you know everything, Araragi. You know Hanakawa-senpai's past, present, and future. Hanakawa, I have no wish to fight you, I have no wish to belittle you and be hated by Araragi-senpai in return. Knowing how Araragi works already, which is completely true. That's exactly what he would do. The more you pick on Hanakawa, the more he wouldn't like you. Let's go our separate ways again, right? Weren't you on your way to Symphogear-senpai's house, right? Well, it's a far way away. You better start walking. Again, obviously privy to their agreement, which Araragi's just blurted out randomly. And we see the traffic has come to a standstill again, right? In the background. The background has also become red and ominous and scary, kind of like it was in the start of Sodachi Riddle as well. Orgi has the upper hand here, obviously knows what Hanako is trying to do, obviously knows what Araragi-senpai wants to do, acting like a little bit of a spirit guide for him, not trying to manipulate him as much, allegedly, right? I'll be just like an uninvited sidekick. You won't even notice me. I'll just be there. How could I abandon Araragi to this, right? I'm being the respectful one here. I'm looking out for him. Again, Master Manipulator. I want to save Araragi-senpai. People can only save themselves, and that, of course, is Oshino's line. My own stance, instead, says Orgi, would be more like the Grateful Crane. Essentially, I hold that debts must be repaid many times over. Araragi-senpai has done me a favor, so I must do him many favors. With a lot of interest. Araragi-senpai was very kind to me when I first transferred here, so I'm trying to do as much for him as possible and help him out any way I can. Hanakawa, seeing through the bullshit. Plans changed. I'm gonna go with you. We're going to go see Oyakura right now. I'm going to go see Sanjigahara later on. We could turn it into a little bit of a pajama party. Again, light goes green. Right here. Ready? We're back on track, baby. That would satisfy you too, Orgi, right? Because you didn't like that Araragi was going to a girl's house alone. If I'm there too, then that's fine. Isn't that right? Again, a little bit of manipulation here from Hanakawa. Ooh, good stuff. It isn't very nice of you to leave Sanjigahara till later, and then that's when we bring up the pajama party. I like that Araragi just randomly really likes the idea of the pajama party too. Orgi says something about the middle ground, and then, hey, Araragi, you should be the one to choose, right? It's in your hands. And then we change the framing. Will you go with me, or will you go with Hanakawa? Araragi, obviously very excited at this prospect too, and again, really understands Araragi, knows everything about Araragi, right? You know everything, Araragi. I know nothing, you know everything. How could you burden Hanakawa-senpai with even more of your petty problems, like you have in the past? This has been a huge, huge part of Araragi's arc, especially as it pertains to Hanakawa, right? I can't trouble her any more than I already have. He's just nodding, right? He agrees, right? Hanakawa doesn't need her life to be made more difficult, does she, right? Yes, that's very true. What she's saying is so true, says Araragi. So I promise you, Araragi, if you go with me, then I promise I will solve whatever mysteries may lie in wait there for us, and you won't need to trouble Hanakawa at all. Appealing to Araragi's true selflessness as it pertains to Hanakawa. Just reaching for that hand, thinking that, Orgi's got him hook, line, and sinker, but Hanakawa has the trump card. I promise you, Araragi, that if you go with me, I'll let you touch my boobs. And that's enough to get him to go. But as we find out later, there's actually a further motivation here. It kind of snaps him out of this. If Hanakawa was that serious about this, that she would offer something like this, then it must be at least equivalent to Kizumonogatari. If we think about it that way, then yeah, you're right? Like, she wouldn't say this unless she really freaking meant it and really wanted me to do something. This is like code speak for you need to listen to me, right? That's what he sees it as anyway. I don't think Hanakawa sees it in that similar light. And that concludes one of the best scenes in the show thus far. That scene is so damn good and works on so many levels and has so many levels to that conversation that it's almost insane. So now we're into building 44, shelf 4, or apartment 4, or there's number 44444 is Oyakura. And she doesn't check her mail very often either. We go into the property management a little bit, right? This place is pretty much a dump. What gives? Well, she's on welfare. She doesn't have a lot of money. She's probably just been put up here. She's clearly just a student. She isn't making anything. Then makes it tough, right? This is my living condition. Out of that, opulent mansion that was still a wreck, but was an opulent mansion, into this now, based on what you didn't do for me, Araragi, because you forgot something, right? Again, why did I forget something that even Sengoku remembered? Why did I forget all of this about Oyakura? It's weird. That, of course, being building the relationship with Oyakura, and blaming himself a little bit for forgetting, for not remembering, for purposely averting his gaze. In a similar vein, the person that I went to ask about this, Sengoku, is a person that I forgot about similarly. I only remembered her after being pushed by somebody else. Hanakawa justifies it by neither person being very important to him at the time and not leaving a lasting impression. Whatever that may mean, right? What does that mean, lasting impression? You'd still remember somebody. It's a weird one. It's a weird one to look at. So Hanakawa's going to scout ahead and see if Oyakura-san is ready for visitors. Because, she may be just in casual wear, and that's a Japanese thing, I guess. Like, if you knock on somebody's door, they're generally wearing clothes, right? You'd think so. I'm wearing clothes, and I'm home alone right now. Love the way we're framing her here as well. It's almost like she's a wild animal being kept in the darkness all alone. With she even bolts her door shut, Araragi reflects on the confrontation between Orgi and Hanakawa before. Why does Hanakawa care about this so much, right? Is Orgi really that dangerous? But still thinking, Orgi has my sympathy. I'll have to be nice to her later to make up for this, right? But Hanakawa really doesn't want me to hang out with her. What should I do? But again, Orgi's got some kind of hold there, some kind of special thing that makes Araragi think this way. Again, thinking back, I can help her. She still deserves my attention and my help. I'm not going to cut her off. Does she? Does she deserve it? That's the question, right? Hanakawa comes up pretty disheveled from her meeting with Oyakura, so clearly that confrontation wasn't very productive for Hanakawa because she's still wearing her pajamas. Oyakura's justification is that Araragi isn't important enough to, dress up for, to maintain that sense of dignity, I guess. Araragi visiting is not worth going through the trouble of changing, she says. I tried to get her to budge, but she didn't pester me anymore, and I'll talk to him naked instead. Araragi says he's not a pervert. Hanakawa says he is a pervert because he went for the breasts. And yeah, she didn't understand the motivation behind what I was doing at all, the one I just justified. Yeah, and now we're going to war. We're breaking down the gate. We're going to plunge in, we're going to siege. That is my lot as Oyakura Sadachi's childhood friend. There we go, we're determined. We pop into the ED, which I was talking about in the moment as well, of being way more indicative of things now. Like, what is this room we're looking at, right? Yeah, the ED makes a whole lot more sense now, right? Orgi stringing Araragi along, Hanakawa getting in the way, and then some genuine conversations, at least metaphorically, between Araragi and Oyakura, as represented by their childhood selves, riding off into the great yonder, let's say. Yeah, very, 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 very good episode. Yeah, so with that one there, I'm just full of compliments. It's very, very good. I'm sure I've talked about it enough. How good the writing is, how good it is visually, how interesting the character relationships are there, how much of a pop-off episode it is for Hanakawa. Just a great one. Really, really great episode. Either way, I think next week I'm doing 2. That's what I've been told. And yeah, we'll see where this conversation with Oyakura goes. That was kind of the teaser going into this episode as well, I thought, is that we're going to finally talk with Oyakura. But that's going to be next episode, apparently. We'll see. She still might be pretty frosty, you would think. Either way, sure stuff. If you like the video, consider liking the video. If you like the video and you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Comment below anything you've thought about the episode, anything I could do to improve my presentation, comment below. I'm doing follow for follow on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter if you would like me to follow you back, and the Discord. Join Discord, love Discord, Discord. And yeah, thanks for watching today, thanks for watching Monogatari continuously, and thanks for coming back next week, if you do. Right here. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.